Good morning, all of you. Hope you are all doing well. So we are going to discuss prostate today. So what is prostate gland? It's a gland which is a mixed type of gland which has fibromuscular stroma, and it is found only in males, which is seen at the neck of the urinary bladder. And we know it's a part of accessory part of the male reproductive system. So coming to the gross features, like when under anatomy, we will study prostate gland under these headings. Like we will see gross features, relations, coverings, lobes. Okay, then what is its blood supply, lymphatic drainage, and nerve supply. We will also talk about applied anatomy, prostate surgeries. We will see the complications, injuries. We will talk about urinary incontinence, erection, and ejaculation. So all these points are more or less related to prostate. Now, when you see, this is the male sagittal section of the pelvis, which will help us to understand the location of prostate gland. This is the anterior abdominal wall. Behind the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall, we are finding pubic symphysis at the pubic bone. Now, this is the male sagittal section of the pelvis, where we are seeing this is the urinary bladder, neck of the urinary bladder. At the neck of the urinary bladder, we have prostate gland, behind which we are finding seminal vesicles. Behind the urinary bladder, we are finding rectum, which is continuing as anal canal. Of course, in this picture, we can also see male reproductive system, the main parts like testis, epididymis, vas deferens, okay, and the one which is continuing behind. Now, coming to the situation of the prostate gland, it is situated above, like at the neck of the urinary bladder. Now, when you keep this prostate gland as center, so you will see superiorly it is related to the neck of the bladder. Inferiorly, it is related to this structure, that is urogenital diaphragm, which we are going to elaborate when we study perineum. Here we will have like sphincter urethrae and the deep transversus perineal muscles. Now in front, the prostate is related to pubic symphysis. Behind, as you can see here, it is related to rectum, and this bulge is called as rectal ampulla. On either side, the prostate gland is related to levator ani. I'll show you in the following slides. Now, coming to the prostate, like it is chestnut in appearance with following average measurements. So the transverse measurement is 4 centimeters. Vertical measurement is 3 centimeters. Anteroposterior, it measures 2 centimeters and weight is 3 grams. Now let us see the coverings of testis. So the outermost covering is actually the false capsule. Immediately surrounding the prostate tissue is the true capsule. The same thing what we have found with thyroid gland. There also we find true capsule and false capsule. Now the true capsule, now see this, let us get the orientation of this picture. This is urinary bladder. This is the neck of the urinary bladder. Now at the neck of the urinary bladder, we are finding this green colored gland, which is nothing but the prostate gland. So from the neck of the urinary bladder, we are finding urethra, and the continuation here is the prostatic urethra. Now, when we just look at this prostate gland, you are finding this outermost covering, which is shown black color over here, which is nothing but true capsule. It is intimately investing the entire organ, and it is formed by condensation of the fibrous stroma of the gland itself. Now, coming to the false capsule, so generally, like there is a fascia, which is the visceral pelvic fascia, which is covering the urinary bladder. The same visceral pelvic fascia is now coming and covering the prostate gland, and it is becoming continuous with the superior layer of the urogenital diaphragm. Now that's what is written here. Now see here, this is the outermost green line, whatever we are seeing here is now false capsule, which is derived from the visceral layer of the pelvic fascia, which is enveloping the prostate, as same thing as we have seen with the urinary bladder. Now, if you observe from this picture, this black line is indicating the true capsule, green line is indicating false capsule. Now, between the true capsule and false capsule, now we are seeing this bluish venous network. This bluish venous network is nothing but prostatic venous plexus. Okay, that is. So now then, now coming to at the neck of the urinary bladder, the false capsule is connected to pubic bone by means of medial and lateral puboprostatic ligaments. This we will study again when we are doing urinary bladder. It comes under the supports of urinary bladder. Posteriorly, the capsule is blending with rectovesical fascia of Dennetvillers. That is nothing but a fascia which is intervening between the urinary bladder and rectum. The space between the true and false capsule is occupied by prostatic venous plexus, except for the posterior surface of the prostate gland. Now, this picture will help us to understand the what are the various supports of urinary bladder. Apart from that, we can also see the connection of prostate. Now, let us see. See, this is right pubic bone, left pubic bone. Meeting point of two pubic bones is pubic symphysis. Behind the pubic symphysis, we have urinary bladder. Now, when we see, now at the neck of the urinary bladder, we are finding one gland, that is prostate. So, from the prostate till the pubic symphysis, we are finding certain thickenings of the fascia, which are now called as ligaments, which are nothing but, in case of male, we call them as medial puboprostatic ligaments and lateral puboprostatic ligaments. Lower down, we will come across the urogenital diaphragm and also the levator ani muscle. Of course, the other structures, whatever we are seeing, that will be dealt with urinary bladder. This is apex of urinary bladder. Let's not deviate from the topic. As such, prostate is a lengthy topic. Okay, now see here. Now, again, let's try to get orientation of this picture. We are finding this is pubic symphysis. This yellow in color is the urinary bladder. This is neck of the urinary bladder. Prostate gland, outermost covering is the false capsule. Isn't it? Now you are finding this passage which is moving through the prostate is prostatic urethra. This is rectum and this is anal canal. And we have like rectovesical fascia or Dennetvillers fascia, which is intervening between the prostate gland and the rectum. Now, coming to the presenting parts. So, if you observe, see again, this is urinary bladder, neck of the bladder, and this is prostate. It looks like a triangle. This is the base of the triangle, and this is apex of the triangle. Apex of the triangle is resting on this structure, which is urogenital diaphragm. In fact, it is blending with the superior fascia of the urogenital diaphragm. This is base which is directed above and it is surrounding the neck of the bladder. It is pierced by urethra in the median plane at the junction of anterior 1/3 and posterior 2/3. That means the prostate gland is not cut equally into two halves because of the piercing of urethra. Instead, anteriorly you are finding 1/3 and posteriorly 2/3 of the gland, and in between we have the prostatic urethra. Okay, now you can see. Now, coming to the posterior surface, now this is urinary bladder, neck, and we are finding this is prostate gland, rectum, and continuing as anal canal. Now, between the prostate gland and rectum, whatever surface we are finding, this is the posterior surface, which is broad and flat, and it is related to this bulge of rectum, which is called as ampulla of rectum. And we know, like the fascia which is intervening, which is shown in yellow color here, that is nothing but rectovesical fascia. This surface is palpable in rectal examination. I'll show you. We have the slide of examination in our applied aspects point. When we palpate through anal canal, we call it as perrectal examination, and we can check if the prostate gland is enlarged. Especially, we will be palpating the posterior surface of prostate gland. Now, coming to the posterior surface, now this picture has been taken from the thus anatomy. It is quite easy to understand from this picture. Now, on the posterior aspect, we are finding there is one transverse groove. It is pierced on either side by the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct, if you remember from male reproductive system class, it is formed by the union of the vas deferens duct and the duct of seminal vesicles. Both of them will join to form ejaculatory duct, and this ejaculatory duct is now opening in the prostatic urethra. Now, this is visible from the posterior aspect of the prostate gland. So, in the posterior aspect, we are finding the transverse groove, and where you are finding like two ejaculatory ducts are opening. Okay, then upper, now if you just consider this transverse sulcus as a landmark, the area above forms the median lobe and the lower area is subdivided by this posterior median sulcus into two lateral lobes. That means, as the picture shows here, this is median lobe and of course these two are lateral lobes. We are going to elaborate lobes more as we proceed. Now with the help of this picture, we are able to understand few things. Now, this whole picture is exclusively helping us to understand posterior surface of prostate, where you are finding this transverse sulcus, two ejaculatory duct openings. We are finding posterior median sulcus. Above transverse sulcus, we have median lobe. On either side of posterior median sulcus, we have two lateral lobes. Now coming to the anterior surface, we know anterior surface pretty well, like it is present behind pubic symphysis. It's narrow and convex and it is situated 2 centimeters behind pubic symphysis. It's separated by pubic symphysis by retropubic fat. Here we also have prostatic venous plexus and deep dorsal vein of Venus. Okay, so this picture is showing us the rich pelvic venous plexus. Okay. Now coming to the inferolateral surface, the inferolateral surface of the prostate gland. This picture is helping us to understand the name of this muscle is levator ani. Okay. Now, so inferolaterally, the prostate gland is related to levator ani muscle. Now, which is specially, now it's given a special name which is called as levator prostate. Now, when we do ischiorectal fossa, we will come across this word called as anterior recess, which is nothing but it's a space which is extending in front of this area, which is connecting right ischiorectal fossa with left ischiorectal fossa. The anterior recess of ischiorectal fossa lies outside the levator ani muscle like this. Again, we are able to see this is the prostate gland. Again, we have these ligaments which are medial and lateral puboprostatic ligaments. Now, let us come to the lobes of prostate. When we talk in anatomical way, basically we have 3 lobes. There is one median lobe and 2 lateral lobes. Like we have seen in Datta's picture also. In the Datta's picture, what did we see? We have one median lobe and 2 lateral lobes. But when we do, like, prostate has got lot of surgical importance, because as the age advances, either prostate gland will undergo hypertrophy, which is nothing but the enlargement of prostate gland, or it may be also atrophying, like it may be shrunken because of age. But in cases where it is undergoing prostatic hypertrophy or prostatic cancer or carcinoma, in such cases generally the surgeons will undertake a surgery to remove the lobes of prostate gland. That's the reason we are now classifying lobes of prostate in 2 different aspects. One is the anatomical aspect, which is quite simple, where we have only one median lobe and 2 lateral lobes. Now, surgically, when surgeons classify it, we have different way of classification. We have one median lobe, we have anterior lobe, posterior lobe, and 2 lateral lobes. So surgically, we have overall 5 lobes, and anatomically, we have 3 lobes. Now coming to the median lobe, it is wedge-shaped with apex directed towards colliculus seminalis. I'll tell you what is this as we proceed. And its base is forming the uvula vesicae at the apex of the trigone of urinary bladder. This word you will understand once urinary bladder is done. Now let us see. See, this is the urinary bladder and this is prostatic urethra. The part of the urethra which is passing through prostate gland is prostatic urethra. Now, in the prostatic urethra, you are finding there is one median elevation which is urethral crest. Okay, and then you are finding a rounded elevation which is called as seminal colliculus or colliculus seminalis. We have just seen like ejaculatory ducts were opening. In fact, we are seeing here the 2 openings, little openings, what we are finding in the colliculus seminalis are nothing but the openings of the ejaculatory duct. We have an opening that is the prostatic utricle, and so many small openings are there on either side of colliculus seminalis, which are called as prostatic duct openings. Apart from that, We will see lower down we have bulbourethral gland. Okay. So these are the various openings. These are the internal features of prostatic urethra. When we do urethra as a separate topic, again we are going to come across this prostatic urethra. Now, see, this is the median lobe, wedge shaped with apex directed towards colliculus seminalis. Okay, base forms the uvula vesicae at the apex of the trigone of the gland. Now, this is the interior of prostate, which is seen from Datta's anatomy, like the median lobe elevation, which we see in the urinary bladder, forms the uvula vesicae. The midline elevation is urethral crest. Okay, this whole rounded elevation is colliculus seminalis. Here you have the ejaculatory duct openings. These are all prostatic gland openings. So now let us see the median lobe boundaries. In front, this median lobe is bounded by the urethra. Behind it is bounded by the ejaculatory ducts. Behind on the median plane, the prostatic ventricle. Okay. Then, the median lobe of the prostate is predominantly fibromuscular and impregnated with mucous glands, usually enlarged in old age. It acts as a ball valve to obstruct the outlet of urinary bladder, resulting in retention of urine. The more the patient strains, this median lobe will close this urethral orifice so that micturition becomes difficult. When person relaxes, then only it will be possible for him to micturate. So that's what is happening in old age in case of enlarged median lobe of prostate gland. Now, paired two lateral lobes separated superficially by this posterior median sulcus. The continuity of two lateral lobes is described surgically as posterior lobe. The two paired lateral lobes, each lateral lobe covers the side of the urethra. In front of the urethra, the lobes are connected by fibromuscular isthmus. In fetal life, the isthmus contains glands which is called as anterior lobe. The anterior lobe persists up to 6 years after birth. Now coming to this posterior lobe, it lies posterior to the urethra and inferior to the plane of ejaculatory duct, as you can see here clearly. This is anterior lobe, this is posterior lobe, and this is median lobe, and this is the prostatic urethra, seminal vesicle, ejaculatory duct. Vast difference. Vast difference in seminal vesicles only will unite to form the ejaculatory duct, which is becoming continuous with the prostatic urethra. This is our anterior lobe, which is lying anterior to the prostatic urethra, and it is mostly muscular, containing less glandular tissue. Now let us see the zones of prostate gland. The glandular tissue of the prostate is subdivided into 3 distinct zones. For your easy remembering, you just remember part completion test PCT. The zone which is outside is the peripheral zone, which is comprising 70%. The zone which is in the center is the central zone, which is 25%. And the zone which changes is called as the transition zone, which is comprising around 5%. Okay. So this is peripheral zone, this is central zone, and this is transition zone. Everything is labeled here. Colors are given. Now see, this is again Datta's picture, which helps us to understand little much better. Now the zone which is shown in green color is the peripheral zone, which is prone for malignancies. That is the last stage of cancers is generally called as malignant. Now surrounding these two ejaculatory ducts, like here, this is the seminal vesicle, finally we have the ejaculatory duct, right? The two ejaculatory ducts which are surrounded by this central zone, PC, then T. This zone is transition zone, that is more prone for early stages of cancer, which is called as benign prostatic tumor. Okay. The P zone is for malignancy, T zone is for benign changes of the prostate. Central zone is generally considered as safer zone. Central zone, which is comprising 25%, surrounds the ejaculatory ducts behind the pre-prostatic part of the urethra, and it is conical in shape. It's like a cone with its apex, which is Now see, so if you consider this as base and this becomes apex, which is pointing towards colliculus seminalis, which I have shown you when we were discussing the prostatic part of urethra. Now, this is the colliculus seminalis. Okay, median urethral crest, uvula vesicae, colliculus seminalis. You are finding the ejaculatory duct openings, prostatic utricle, and so many prostatic gland openings, bulbourethral gland openings you are seeing here. This complete thing is the prostatic urethra. These are the bulbourethral glands. Okay, now this is transition zone. So transition zone is surrounding the distal part of the pre-prostatic urethra, just proximal to the apex of the central zone and ejaculatory ducts. Its ducts open into prostatic urethra between the pre-prostatic sphincter above and ducts of peripheral zone below. No, the peripheral zone, it's cup-shaped and it encloses the central transition zone and the pre-prostatic urethra, except anteriorly where the space is filled with fibromuscular stroma. Simple mucus-secreting glands are found in the peripheral zone. That's the reason it is more prone for malignant type of cancers. The structures traversing or piercing the prostate gland are the prostatic urethra, ejaculatory duct, these two are. Okay, and this is the prostatic utricle. The prostatic urethra, it runs almost vertically downwards from the base of the urinary bladder, slightly in front of the apex at the junction of the anterior 1/3 and posterior 2/3 of the gland. As I already told you, the gland is not equally divided, but we have anterior 1/3 and posterior 2/3 of the gland between which the prostatic urethra is running. Now this is the ejaculatory duct. It passes posterolateral to the median lobe and opens in the colliculus on each side of the prostatic utricle. This one, ejaculatory ducts, and this is prostatic utricle. This round elevation is colliculus seminalis. The whole thing is prostatic urethra. The same thing is repeatedly I kept so that it goes into your long-term memory. Okay, so this is prostatic utricle. It is a mucus cul-de-sac about 6 mm long and extends upwards and backwards from colliculus behind the median lobe. The clinical importance of the peripheral zone, PCT, right? So peripheral zone is prone for carcinoma of prostate, okay, and transition T is prone for benign prostatic hypertrophy leading to compression of pre-prostatic part of the urethra, producing retention symptoms of urine outflow. Central zone is relatively safe zone and it is not much involved in any of the diseases. Coming to the structure, we know like outside to inside we have P, then C and T, peripheral zone, central zone and transitional zone. The fibrous tissue is overall when you see structure, 1/4 of the gland is made up of fibrous tissue, 1/4 is made up of muscular tissue and 1/4 is made up of glandular tissue. Okay. Now this fibrous tissue is outside. It is thickened at the periphery of the gland to form root capsule. A posterior-median fibrous septum connects the fibrous capsule with urethral crest. The muscular tissue, it consists of smooth muscles and it is continuous with the detrusor muscle of urinary bladder. Muscle is arranged as the outer sheet, this one, which is just beneath the precapsule, and inner sheet, which is seen just surrounding the urethra. These sheets are connected by radiating muscle fibers. The spaces between the fibers, now you can see, this is the inner sheet and this is the outer sheet, and in between the inner and outer sheet we are finding the follicles of the gland. Now coming to the muscular tissue, a transversely oriented attached fibers of striated muscle pass between the prostate in front of the urethra and blends posterolaterally with fibrous capsule and with posterior-median septum. Contraction of these fibers compress the secretion of prostatic glands and also dilates the urethra in order to collect constituents of semen. The arch striated muscles are derived from sphincter urethrae muscle. You know, like the glands of prostate are like like this is it, like like arranged in three concentric layers surrounding the urethra from inside outwards. That means this is inner one, which is shown in pink color, is mucus gland. Intermediate, which is little brown in color, is submucous gland. Outer one, which is shown in white background, green glands. These are the main glands. Okay. Here I told you much glandular tissue is found in the peripheral zone, which is prone for malignancy, isn't it? And surrounding the urethra, we have transition zone, which is prone for benign prostatic hypertrophy. Central zone is quite safe. It doesn't involve any type of cancers. Inner mucous glands, these are simple tubular and the glands and the ducts open into the prostatic sinuses. We have seen on either side of folliculus seminalis, so many sinuses were opening. Nothing but these are the openings of these glands only. Okay, about the follicles. Okay, these are the prostatic duct openings. This is the prostatic ventricle. Prostate itself is a gland, isn't it? It adds bulk to the seminal fluid. So the intermediate submucous glands present less follicles and smaller ducts which open the sinuses at the level of folliculus seminalis. This one. Outer main glands present numerous follicles and longer ducts which open in the prostatic sinuses below the folliculus seminalis. The total number of ducts overall, if you just see, count, it is around 12 to 20. The follicles are lined by simple columnar epithelium like any other gland, and we have seen actually in histology, which we have finished when we had interactive classes, live classes, like provided with numerous enfolding after puberty, isn't it? The growth of follicles and mucous enfoldings is stimulated by testosterone, inhibited by estrogen. That's the reason in case of benign prostatic hypertrophy and also in carcinoma, in order to stop the growth of prostate gland, we can give estrogen therapy because estrogen is inhibiting the growth of follicles. This is one clinical point. In old age, mucous enfoldings of the follicles disappear and the follicles contain starch-like material which is Carpora amylacea, also called as amyloid bodies. Isn't it? We have discussed this when we were doing histology. Hope you remember? Carpora amylacea, amyloid bodies. These are all concretions within the prostate gland, isn't it? This is called, see here, it is made up of glandular tissue. In between, you have the fibromuscular stroma. Isn't it? That's the reason we call it as it's a gland with fibromuscular stroma, not purely gland also. It also has smooth muscles and also a lot of collagen fibers in between. That's why it is a gland with lot of fibromuscular stroma. This will be asked in your Viva histology. You should remember this point. Now coming to the blood supply of this, so the nearby blood vessels are inferior vesical artery, we are seeing middle rectal artery and internal pudendal artery. Near the same corresponding veins we have, isn't it? So the prostatic plexus, we will be going to drain into vesical venous plexus. From here, the venous blood goes to internal iliac vein. Communication with Batson's plexus of paravertebral veins. From there, the venous blood goes to vertebral venous plexus. It may be responsible for the spread of cancer metastasis into vertebral bodies or intracranial invasion. Coming to the lymphatic drainage of this gland is primarily going into internal iliac and external iliac and sacral group of lymph nodes. Of course, the nerve supply will be there in the abdominal part of autonomic nervous system. You will understand much better there. We have pelvic splanchnic nerves, sacral splanchnic nerves, inferior hypogastric nerves supplying here. The pelvic plexus is formed by parasympathetic visceral efferent and preganglionic fibers that arise from sacral levels and the sympathetic fibers from thoracolumbar levels. Located beside the rectum, parasympathetic nerves end the acini and end to lead to prostatic secretion. Sympathetic nerves lead to contraction of smooth muscle of the capsule and stroma. Don't worry, we are going to have a separate lecture in abdominal part of autonomic nervous system, then you will understand it. Age changes of prostate itself can be a 3 marker. Overall prostate gland is an essay question which is important for 15 marks. So newborn baby, the prostate has duct system in fibromuscular stroma. First few weeks, hyperplasia of mucous membrane due to circulating maternal estrogen. Before puberty, prostate grows slowly and rudimentary follicles bud out from sides of the ducts. At puberty, it grows suddenly and assumes double of its neonatal size. This takes place due to the growth of numerous folds within the follicles. Above 40 years, the mucus folds disappear and follicles contain the material inside, that is nothing but the amyloid bodies or the corpora amyloidosa are prostatic concretions. In old age, either it may undergo hypertrophy, which is the enlargement of prostate gland, or it may atrophy, that is the size of the gland may reduce. Now coming to the applied anatomy, suppose if there is benign prostatic hypertrophy, the more patient strains, we know the median lobe of the prostate is closing the prostatic orifice, that is the prostatic part of the urethra is obliterated if the median lobe of the prostate is enlarged. Unless and until the patient relaxes, he will not be able to micturate. That's what is trouble urinating. Prostatitis is a condition where there is inflammation of prostate gland. It is basically caused due to the infection of prostate. It is treated with antibiotics. Benign prostatic hyperplasia is enlargement of the gland. As the prostate starts to enlarge, it exerts pressure on the walls of the urethra. You can see this is the prostatic enlargement. The exact etiology of benign prostatic hypertrophy is of course not still clearly understood. In this case, there is decrease in testosterone level with advancing age, but estrogen level does not decrease equally. Okay. Dihydrotestosterone is the main mediator of this condition. So we can see this is the prostate gland, okay, which is being scooped out in case of prostatic hypertrophy. Retropubic approach, we can go perineal approach, we can go to reach the prostate gland. I was talking about, see, this is the prostate is being removed from the neck of the urinary bladder. Okay, this is the posterior aspect of the urinary bladder. It's a clear picture which helps us to understand the seminal vesicles, ejaculatory duct, ampulla of the ejaculatory, ampulla of the vas deferens, vas deferens, ampulla of vas deferens, seminal vesicles, both of them are joining to form the ejaculatory duct. Okay, this is pubic symphysis, urinary bladder, neck of the bladder, prostate gland. Behind again seminal vesicles, this is the ejaculatory duct. Is the anterior one-third of the prostate. This is the posterior two-thirds of the prostate, in between which prostatic urethra is passing. I told you I will be showing you the picture of per rectal examination. You can just put a finger through the anal orifice, enter into the ampulla of the rectum and palpate the posterior aspect of the prostate gland. This is pubic symphysis, retropubic space. This is the anterior aspect of the prostate gland, posterior aspect of the prostate gland, and we can palpate in this way. Okay. So this is the way we generally take biopsy with the help of biopsy gun by passing the probe through the rectum and anal orifice. Again, this is for rectal examination. Okay, we can check it through ultrasound probe also if there is any malignancy or if there is any benign prostatic hypertrophy. So roots of prostatic cancer spread, obviously whatever are the nearby organs, those are the organs which are basically involved in the spread of tumor, and of course the tumor spreads through lymphatic route. We can see the cancer, how it is spreading in stage 1. It is confined to the prostate and just spreading up to the neck of the urinary bladder. As we proceed, we will see it is going up to the seminal vesicles, isn't it? It's becoming bigger in size, it's going up to pubic symphysis. Okay, so this is the normal prostate, and enlarged prostate we see in case of prostatic cancer. So how to avoid the cancers? It's better always to have a vegetarian diet. Research shows that a diet consisting of high amount of animal fat helps prostate cancer to grow. So to counteract this, we should eat more greens. Hope you understood. Have a nice day. Thank you.